last time we interviewed Mike Paquin about his films and the films he's making, the ones he's made, Caddy Hack being one we talked about quite a lot. We really enjoyed it. He's a really great guy. But today, in this interview, we're going to discuss his experiences, his other creative outlet, such as being one of the brains behind many of Funko's first steps. So in the world, on their sort of step towards world domination, like when you get your horror pop signed, you can thank Mike for helping start that. So we talked about that this time because I just thought it was a fascinating avenue to go down. And he's such an interesting guy. Again, all his links are going to be below, so there's loads to have a look at in terms of his acting career, which is burgeoning and getting bigger and bigger. But this is a really different take on collectibles, and as you can probably see behind me, maybe a little bit, and certainly over this side of the room, we love collectibles in horror, don't we? So check this interview out. One of the brains behind Funko, Mike Paquin, big Mike Paquin. So one of the things I wanted to ask you, speaking about giving people their flowers, you mentioned about Funko, and I'm really interested in Funko because, this is 25 years ago. This is the launch of the company. I've got some questions about that because I feel like that's something that you did an incredible thing. You did an incredible thing that spawned a massive global phenomenon. So that take me back 25 years. How did that kind of start? What went on?
Well, I was a established collectible toy and memorabilia dealer, and I was an established toy and collectible dealer. We sold through publications back then, pre-internet, and I sold internationally. I was pretty well known. I wound up heading from like action figure kind of stuff real heavily into advertising icons, the characters we grow up with on the TV commercials and stuff, promoting, Green Giant, vegetables to the Doughboy, etc. For some reason, I gravitated to that area. I wound up writing a column for a collectible publication, a monthly column, and traveled and did shows like we were sort of, in a way, I guess, kind of like traveling musicians or something. We would go around and do all these shows and run into the same guys, and you built relationships. And I was well known for those characters. So when the fellow that was going to start Funko got the license to do Big Boy, the licensing agent said, "Oh, hey, maybe you want to give this guy a call." So he basically called me and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing a Big Boy bobbing head like the old one from the 60s. And the licensing agent suggested I give you a call." Why did she suggest I give you a call? And so I basically gave him my bona fides and told him, well, between myself and a couple of my buddies, we sold more of the Big Boy banks and dolls last year than any of the restaurants in the chain. And I kind of know this stuff inside out. And we got talking, and that was in the late spring of '98, and that was Mike Becker, who's now called the COF, the chairman of Fun with Funko. He was the founder and ran it for several years, sold it and got hired back, and he's one of the big shots over there now, but not nearly the big shot he was, but still a big shot.
Sure. I mean, I believe that you actually placed the first order. Or had something to do with the first order.
Yeah, I got involved when Funko wasn't named yet. It was named Brainworks originally. There was only one product that was on the to-do list, which was the Big Boy. He immediately started exploring other things and whatever, and even within those first 6 months, it snowballed into something bigger. But when I was first involved with him, like I said, it was just one product coming. And a lot of head scratching about how to go with the whole thing. The initial conversation that I had with Mike, the best of my recollection, is the first day, the conversation that we had wound up where he said, he had gone back and forth to China for the sportswear company that he worked for. He saw how easy it was to make things. He was at a trade show, saw the agent for Big Boy, and thought, "Oh, I've never been able to afford a Big Boy bobbing head. but maybe I can make a new one. Approached her. She was open to it at that first meeting. He decided to start the company. Just boom, just did it like almost in a couple weeks. Got it all together. Not long after he contacted me, and the conversation came full circle to where he said, "Well, the issue is the expenses to start up. I have to make at least 1,000 of these just to kind of break even." And I said, "Oh, well, I'll take 1,000 of them just to start." And he was like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll place an order today for 1,000 big boys. Here's what I want, though. Could you do something special?" "What do you mean?" "Oh, like over the years that they made big boys for the restaurants over the decades, sometimes his hair is brown and sometimes his hair is black. Whatever color hair you're going to do for the ones that you're going to make for mass consumption, how about you do 1,000 for me with the other hair color and we'll number them?" "Well, why would anybody want to do that?" I said, "Well, just trust me on this." So
No way.
I think he was a little reticent to ask for that big of a change in the beginning, but he wound up doing a different color base, a red base for my 1,000 pieces, and the boxes were individually numbered. And that was the first of probably 15 or 20 of the ideas that I gave to Mike for the early Wacky Wobbler line.
Right. Oh, I know those. And do you know what? I had to rack my brain about Big Boy because we obviously we don't have the chain of restaurants, but I thought of Wayne's World. They're in Wayne's World, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that, but you're right. I think they
Yeah. I was like, where do I know that? Where do I know that? And then I was like, yes, of course, Wayne's World, which is sort of mid-90s, isn't it? So you've already got an iconic film there. You know, so there's a market of teens and upwards, isn't there? You know, who would be into that too.
Well, I don't even know how much that would have played because I forgot that even happened myself. But Big Boy is a huge icon here. In the 70s, in the 70s, they were a sponsor on a couple of the game shows. So you would see the ads for on Let's Make a Deal, and I think there was another one. You'd see the big ads for Big Boy on there on national TV. Like it was a big deal, and people collected Big Boy memorabilia in huge ways. If you went to toy and collectible conventions in like the 90s and after the turn of the century, you know, there was always a bunch of dealers with Big Boy memorabilia.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I guess we don't really have. I'm trying to think because everything that we have is American, really. So we have like McDonald's, obviously Ronald McDonald and Grimace and everybody, but
we had. I would
can't
get
think
stuff.
of anything else.
I would get stuff from foreign countries. So you guys have a guy that's he's for an orange drink. He's like a big orange blobby guy, and the character would go to bars and stuff and get in trouble in real life.
Oh yeah, Tango.
Yeah, so I had Tango figures. I would get those, and I would
no way.
You know, a lot of stuff from Germany.
Tango got banned. Yeah, Tango got banned because he would run in and slap people in the ears. Yeah. This was when I was at school, and all the kids in school would run up and slap you in the ears, and obviously it was causing perforated eardrums and things. So,
nice.
The adverts got banned. So I'd imagine those figures are probably worth a lot of money now.
Yeah, I saw one a couple years ago, and I'm like, oh my god, I remember that guy, and I looked him up, and he wasn't terribly valuable, but it was nostalgic for me. We did a lot. We had dealer friends from Germany and the UK and Japan. We did Atlantic City, which at the time was the biggest indoor antique show in the world. So we did that once a year, and then it turned to twice a year, and we do it twice a year. And we had customers that would come over from Japan to buy at that show. I've got a friend now from those days. He's called the Pez Outlaw. His name is Steve Glue. And they've just made a documentary that's winning all kinds of awards about Steve, and they're looking to make a film about him. And he was the fellow that in that era, in the 90s, when I was friends with him, he was inspired by a couple of things. We think he was inspired by one friend of ours who was bringing Pez dispensers over the border from Canada, and they were different ones. He was bringing them over and selling them here, our friend Jay. And then Steve was at a show, and he met some woman, and she turned him on to Europe, and he started flying to Europe with money taped to him like a drug mule. and showing up in these foreign countries where he couldn't speak the language, and he dealt with anxiety, and he would show up
Oh my
knocking
word.
on doors trying to find Pez factories, and he succeeded. He generated millions of
No
dollars,
way.
and Pez put a vendetta on him, Pez USA, and it's all in the documentary and will be in the
Oh,
film. It's a
I think I
brilliant
might have.
story.
Yeah, I think I might have seen some of this. It sounds very familiar because, I mean, that's not the traditional way of how licensing works, is it? You don't just go into somewhere with a big chunk of money and throw like how if you want to make a product with something on it. Say I want to make something with Art the Clown or something, or maybe I want to use Biggles from Caddy Hack and I want to make him into a into a carrot into a figure. How do you go about doing that? What is the sort of
Well,
the
I had to
process?
get an education on that because Funko started growing so quickly, and there was opportunities for me to make some money in it. But there were these questions of like, how do I put this together? So I started trying to encourage Mike to do more of those advertising icons. Obviously, he started with one, so he was cognizant of them being interesting to people. But he immediately started looking at doing other licensed characters, and the next few were not necessarily advertising characters. And I kept going, no, more advertising characters. This will be huge. And so I brought him a couple deals to the table where I went back then. Now you couldn't do it as probably at all, certainly not as easily. But I went to some companies then that had fairly dormant characters. They either were not using them at all at the time, or they were using them but weren't doing any licensing. And I would just, show up on their telephone going, hey, could we give you, $5,000 and, make a ready kilowatt into a bobbin head. And I had pretty good success. I put together deals for about a half a dozen different classic advertising characters that came out in the first, like, say, year and a half or 2 years. So I was really happy with being able to take a big hand in that and make a little bit of money too. I certainly needed to pay my bills, so it was good. I wound up making myself basically a small licensing agent and handled the ice cream icon, Mr. Softy, for like 2 years. The classic drink mix characters, Funny Face, that were like competition for Kool-Aid, was a whole group of characters. I put together the Speedy Alka-Seltzer. I did one for Old Navy of the character they had, that dog Magic. They did one for the employees. There were several of them that I was the one that brought those deals in.
So some of these dormant characters that maybe the companies were not around anymore and things like that, or some of them they are, because I'm interested. I almost feel like there's scope for those characters to become like a sort of a dark animatronic horror version of these characters. As you're saying, some of them, they're a bit, I don't know, sometimes like Willy's Wonderland or the Banana Splits movie or something, where it's a bit dark.
Yeah.
And weird.
Do you know Green Jello, Green Jelly, the band?
No.
Okay, so they were like a metalish, punkish, parody-ish kind of band about 25, 30 years ago. I think I've come to find out more recently that the one main guy is like in legitimate bands or something now, but they were Green Jello, and General Foods or whoever was suing them, so they had to change to Green Jelly. But they did videos. I think the album was called Serial Killer. Certainly the one song was. But it was,
I'm on it now, yeah.
So they did a bunch of those characters, evil in that video, killing each other and all kinds of craziness.
No way. Oh, so what they've done is to kind of get around the name. They've put like a little umlaut over the O, so that they can still be Jello, but they're not.
See, that may be a more recent thing, because for a long time they were going by Green Jelly.
Right.
They changed it to Green Jelly.
Right. I thought if that is a way of getting around it, I don't know. That's pretty clever if it is. Just the 2 dots above the O and you're done.
Yeah, we had a thing this past week. Obviously, Philadelphia is known for our cheesesteak sandwich.
Yeah.
So it just so happens there's another Forrest Gump moment for me. I'm in the cheesesteak book. There is a cheesesteak book, and I'm in it. I marketed the
way.
cheesesteak hat, which was an answer to the green wedge hat that the Green Bay people wear, and
Yeah.
so I'm a real cheesesteak aficionado and
That's
cheesesteak
so
nut.
cool.
I went out on the when they did the world's biggest cheesesteak, same year '98 that Funko came out. I went out on the AP wire as the quote from the event. So this past week we had a place, one of the oldest, most classic cheesesteak places called Jim's. Uh, the building had gone into disrepair, was sold. A fellow reopened it, rehired the original people that were still working there a few years ago, and was bringing Jim's back. And the family that sold the building that has a different Jim's in a different location sued that they wouldn't use the Jim's name. So, and I was talking to the guy last weekend on opening day on Saturday, and I was trying to explain to him the difference. He didn't quite know the difference between the trademark and copyright part of the law, and then that they had a codicil in his contract, which is a different piece of the law. So this is all stuff I learned back when I was doing the Funko stuff. I bought licensing books and studied them like I was going to college because I wanted to understand how all of this works.
You talk about, you saying about like Forrest Gump moments. You've kind of made these incredible leaps from different.
Absolutely.
And it's a bit, reminds me a bit of, one of my favorite shows, Quantum Leap, with Scott Bakula from back in the day.
Yeah. Quantum Leap, yes.
Yeah, so good. I'd love to read the book of your life, your autobiography. That would be fascinating, because of not just the famous names involved, but the way you've moved between these different avenues and the kind of the creativity that and the drive that's gone into doing that. Man, I would be the first person to buy that book. I really, really appreciate you sharing all these things. Will you come on again and tell me some more of your stories? Oh man,
absolutely.
That would be great.
I have hundreds of those stories.
I like the sound of that. That sounds great, man. And I just want to wish you all the best in the future with all of your film projects, all of your projects, full stop. Because I have a feeling that it doesn't just stop with film. Multifaceted guy, and I just really appreciate your openness, and you're a real inspiration to people. And I've really enjoyed talking to you, Mike. So thank you so much for coming on.
Well, I appreciate all those kind words. I don't know about inspiration, but I'll take it as a compliment, even if I don't completely believe it myself. But I certainly like to spread the fun.
Yeah, man. Well, you have done with me today, so thank you so much once again, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, buddy. Have a great day.